Here we have the Xiaomi Redmi Note 14 5G smartphone, and that's the base edition of this phone, since you can also grab the Redmi Note 14 Plus and a Pro Plus, but these ones are a little bit more expensive. Now this one right here will only cost you 300 euros, and for that price you will get a 50 megapixel main camera with optical image stabilization, you got an always on display mode, and an actual pretty cool design. And today we will check out everything this phone has to offer, and first up, the unboxing. And inside of the box you won't find that much. It's the usual unboxing experience with Redmi smartphones, and you first get to see the smartphone. I got the coral green version, but you can also grab it in the colors of lavender purple and midnight black. What I also really like is that you will get a black silicone case with the Redmi logo on the bottom corner. There's some SIM pin, some paper stuff, and a USB Type-C to USB Type-A charging cable. And that's it. No extra charging brick. Now first up, the specs and the design, and I really like the backside of this phone. You basically have 4 different green colors on this squared backside, and on none of these you will see any of your fingerprints, which I like a lot. You've got that plastic element on which you will find your triple camera setup, and since this camera element is so big, your phone will barely wiggle around when you use it without the case. The biggest square on which you will find the Redmi logo has a matte shimmery design, and by the way, the whole backside is plastic. You have an aluminum frame and a glass front, which is protected by Corning Gorilla Glass, and overall this phone weighs in at 190 grams, which is a normal weight for such a large smartphone. Now you really need to know that the Redmi 14 is only IP64 dust and water resistant, which is just barely enough for some water splashes and nothing more. As for the display and the audio, you've got a 6.67 inch AMOLED display with HDR10 Plus and a peak brightness of 2100 nits, which is more on the bottom end for smartphones. The display has a refresh rate of 120 Hz, which you can also lower to 60 Hz. There are also some display features, like you can change the color scheme to vivid, saturated, and normal, and then you can also adjust the color temperature. Then there is a reading mode as well, which tends to screen amber, which results in less strain on your eyes when it's dark. And as for the colors on your videos and YouTube clips, they look pretty good. Nothing special, but colors are vivid and you have a decent contrast. The audio from the stereo speaker isn't the best. The maximum loudness is decent, but the quality is a bit dull and overall not the best. In your sound settings you can also switch between the Dolby Atmos and the Xiaomi sound settings, and you have a graphic equalizer as well with a few pre-audio sets. The battery life on this phone is decent. You have a 5110 mAh battery that will last you a whole weekend. On continuous video streaming the battery will last about 10 to 11 hours, and on continuous gaming the battery lasts about 5 hours. Now charging this phone also doesn't take that long. With 45 watts wired charging, it goes from 0 to 100% in just under 60 minutes. Unfortunately, there's no wireless charging on this phone. Alright, let's skip over to the features and HyperOS, and Xiaomi promises up to 4 years of security and 2 years of OS updates. Then you can grab this phone with 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of internal storage over here in Germany, which will cost you right around 300 euros. Unfortunately, about 25 gigs are already used up by the system. Now the Redmi 14 5G comes with a fingerprint sensor underneath the display, which works just fine in all of my tries, and also the face detection is doing a good job. Like with most smartphones, you have some different fingerprint animations. There is the default neon effect, but there's also starlight, aurora, and a pulse effect. Something that you're not going to find on this budget smartphone are any AI features, but what you do get are some customization options for your always on display, like different signatures, analog and digital clocks. You have different lock styles, and then you can also customize each of these lock screens as well. This phone has some safety and emergency features, parental controls, and the usual gesture controls, like you can take a screenshot by pressing on the screen with 3 fingers, you can take partial screenshots, or you can also turn on the torch by double pressing your side button. The phone also has a second space, you got floating windows, and a smart sidebar with some of your favorite apps for quicker access. And then you can also check your heart rate, but this one isn't that accurate. Now as for the performance and the gaming, the Redmi 14 5G runs on a MediaTek Dimensity 7025, which you will also find in phones like the Moto G55 and the Poco M7. In my daily use, I don't think that this phone was doing a bad job. It was pretty decent for basically the whole time, and only sometimes it was a bit slow. As for the gaming experience, now I play Genshin Impact, and you are definitely better off if you play it on medium graphic settings. On high-end settings, the game doesn't run so smooth, with some stuttering here and there, and also the frame rate won't stay consistent. By the way, there's also no game booster on this phone. Lastly, we got the cameras. You have a 50 megapixel main camera with optical image stabilization, there's an 8 megapixel ultra wide and a 2 megapixel macro camera. But I can tell you right away that the pictures that you take with the macro camera aren't that good and they are very noisy. On the front you have a 20 megapixel camera, and with both cameras you can shoot videos in 1080p and 30 fps. Again, not that great. Now, photos that you take with your main camera are okayish, the colors are not oversaturated, but colors could have been a little bit poppier. It will also struggle with some moving objects, like if you're trying to take a picture of your moving cat. Just like movements could result in a blurry picture, but at least the selfie camera is decent with natural colors and a good background blur, which you can also adjust in your settings, and this one takes good pictures whether you are outside or at home where you don't have as much light. I should also mention that basically every picture looks different. The ones that you take with the ultra wide angle camera, your normal ones, and if you use the D4 3x zoom. The normal ones have the best color accuracy. Pictures with the ultra wide angle camera look a bit pale, and if you use the 3x zoom option, your pictures are pretty bright. So no real consistency in your pictures. Lastly, you need to know that you have a maximum of 20x zoom, but I would rather stick to like a 2 to 3x zoom for the best results.